Hey buddy, Crow back again, and this is another video response to Novabug's Friday Foursome. So if you're interested in doing a video response, go ahead, check out the original video. I'll leave it in the description below. But this time, for the month of May, the Friday Foursome is based on your, I guess it's just 4 gaming disappointments. I don't know if it's top 4 or whatever. And it's funny because when he put this video out and I'm watching it and I'm like, boy, I'd like to respond, but I don't think I've ever been really disappointed by anything. And then as I'm watching the video, I'm making a list. It's like, well, what I can think of. And before the video was over, I already had a list of 10 things I was disappointed by just in gaming in general, whether it's something to do with a particular game or just something about the gaming industry. And I was like, well, I guess I have to pick 4 and make a video now. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. The very first thing I can remember ever being disappointed by gaming-wise in my life was for the Atari 2600. We've had the Atari 2600 for a pretty long time. We had actually the Sears Telegames or whatever. And this was, the NES had already been out, but we didn't get an NES until either 88 or 89. I don't remember. So it was sometime between like 86 or 80, maybe it's earlier than that. Maybe it was like 85. Maybe the NES wasn't out, because I remember being quite young for a kid. It's kind of young enough to where you didn't actually carry any money on you. So this was probably before the NES ever came out. But now I think about it, we were at a garage sale, and I remember seeing a bunch of Atari 2600 games at this garage sale, and they were being sold really cheap, like $1 or 50 cents each, but I don't have any money. And I saw a game there that I didn't have. I was like, hey, this game Maze. I'd like to get this game. We don't have this game, Maze. I want it. And they were like, okay, well, go in the car, whatever. And then I don't think I'm not going to pay $1 for this Maze game or whatever. Well, when they came back to the car, they were like, here, we got you the game. They agreed to sell us this game for $0.25. I was like, oh, cool, okay. So we got home, and I put the game in, and I was like, wait a minute. We have this game. It wasn't that we already had the game Maze. We had this game right here, Slot Racers. Well, this is the point in time where I learned that, I don't know if this is true in other countries. It's probably not true. So Novabug might not have any idea what I'm talking about here. But here in the US, we had a department store called Sears. But they wouldn't carry anything in their stores unless it was their brand. So the Atari 2600 or the Atari VCS, not the new one, the original VCS, to be sold in Sears had to be rebranded, and it was rebranded as the Sears Telegames. And it wasn't just the system as well, it was the games. So Atari had Slot Racers, Sears rebranded it and relabeled it as Maze. So that's how I learned that. That's how I learned that on the Atari 2600, Atari VCS, you could have 2 games with different names, but in fact be exactly the same game. And that's kind of my first disappointment in buying a game I already had, though through no fault of my own, because they had different names. And in the end, we were only out a $0.25, so it wasn't really that big of a deal either, so it was just kind of funny. I had to put that story in here. All right, next up, I gotta talk about the game Brutal Legend. I would show it to you, but I don't have it, so I'm probably gonna take some footage somewhere to show you the game while I'm talking about it. And if you're familiar with the, I guess, little bit of a controversy that was Brutal Legend, you might know where I'm going with this. But as Brutal Legend was advertised, it featured Jack Black, and I really like Jack Black and his voice talents as a roadie that goes into this heavy metal world and hacks and slashes at monsters and everything. And I thought that's what the game was going to be, because that's really all they showed in the advertisement. So I get the game. I had it on PS3. I actually have it on Steam now. I bought it super cheap on Steam, so I still have the game technically. I just don't have a physical version of it. But you play it, and it is exactly as advertised. You're running around, you're hacking and slashing until you get to a certain part of the game, and the game turns into a real-time strategy game. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. I got past that part, And then you get a little bit further in the game, and then it's an even bigger real-time strategy thing. And I was like, I don't like this. And I stopped playing it right then and there, and that's when I found out that most of the game was real-time strategy. Now, for some people that may work, but the problem is that real-time strategy games, I don't like them at all. They're one genre of game I cannot get into at all. So, like, a little bit, I got into a little bit on the PC way back in the mid-90s, like with Warcraft and Warcraft 2. But I could handle Warcraft 2. But I could not handle Command and Conquer. I could not handle StarCraft. I could not handle games like that. And that's what Brutal Legend actually focused on once you got past the intro of the hacking and slashing part. I just wanted a good hack and slash with Jack Black, and they pulled the rug out from under you, and they just, all of a sudden, it's a real-time strategy game. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't know why I rebought it on Steam. It was really cheap, probably. I'll probably never play it on Steam even. But, just the disappointment in that. Just, in the middle of the game, just having the genre switch on you like that. I don't know. That was a big disappointment for me. All right, for disappointment number 3, I guess I gotta talk about some of the games I held in the thumbnail. Super Mario 64 and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Now, was I disappointed by these games? Yes, I was. I know that these are heralded as, some of the greatest video games of all time. I just don't see it that way. Here's why I'm disappointed by these games and other games like this. I mean, this is just kind of a roundabout thing. It's not these games specifically, but around that time of the Nintendo 64 coming out, and they were like showing off Super Mario 64, I couldn't help but feel disappointed. And here's why. Because I played Super Mario Brothers. I played Super Mario Brothers 2. I played Super Mario 3. I played Super Mario's World. I played Super Mario, World 2, which was Yoshi's Island, which really wasn't a Mario game. I enjoyed the 2D platforming. I really enjoyed it. But then they were taking it and turning it 3D. That's not what I wanted. I wanted more 2D platforming. In fact, we did not get another 2D Mario platformer until the Nintendo DS with New Super Mario Brothers. New Super Mario Brothers. It was New Super Mario Brothers. So I didn't like it. I played through Super Mario 64, but I was disappointed by it because it's not what I wanted. Legend of Zelda. Again, Zelda's Adventure. No, Link's Adventure. The second game I know wasn't a traditional top-down Zelda, but again, that's not a game I really played. I played Legend of Zelda, the original on the NES, and I played A Link to the Past, and so I wanted another game like that. And then they turn around and present us with a 3D Zelda game, and I know a lot of people liked that and wanted that, but that's not what I wanted. I still have not made it through that game. I think I've played it through halfway before I got tired of it and was like, I don't like this. In fact, it wasn't until Breath of the Wild that I actually played a 3D Zelda game that I did like. But granted, I might have liked Wind Waker or anything. I just wasn't playing any of those. And again, the only reason I bought Breath of the Wild is because I didn't have any other games to buy for the Switch on launch. So I kind of got tricked into playing it, and I was like, hey, they finally did it the way I like it. But again, I might have liked a previous Zelda game, I just haven't played it. But I was just really disappointed in that because they were showing off teasers of Link riding a horse. And I was like, to me, in my mind, a horse wasn't the type of animal that looked like it belonged in Hyrule, because this is a fantasy world. So why are the horses in a fantasy world? It just seemed out of place to me. Again, there's other real creatures in the series now. Like I know owls are a big thing in Legend of Zelda or Hyrule or whatever. But at the time, I was seeing Link riding a horse, and that did not look right to me. So I don't like Ocarina of Time, but it's primarily because of my bias towards the 2D Zelda games. I just like those way more. I like the 2D games way more. But again, those aren't the only games. I don't have to pick on Mario or Zelda. They did the same thing with Castlevania when they brought it to 3D on the Nintendo 64, and also like Mega Man with Mega Man Legends. It's like, why are they trying to make this 3D? Just leave it 2D, leave it the way it was. So I kind of ignored. I was kind of disappointed that all these established 2D franchises were trying to make this jump into 3D, and I didn't see the games as being that great. I'd rather have the 2D stuff, and I was disappointed that we weren't getting that. And we actually didn't get 2D versions of a lot of these games for a long time after that as well. So that's why I put those in the screenshot. Yeah, I'm disappointed by them. I'm not going to say they're terrible games or anything. They're just not for me. All right, last game disappointment. You saw me holding this up in the thumbnail as well, Final Fantasy VII. If I like Final Fantasy VII so much, how am I disappointed with it? I mean, I played the game on launch. I was like anticipating the game for a long time. I was sucked up in the media blitz for it, and got it the day it was released, played through it again. I played through this game like 5 times within the first 2 years it was released. Why was I disappointed by Final Fantasy VII if I enjoyed it that much and played it through that many times initially? I was disappointed by the ending of it. So, kind of a minor spoilers. I'm not going to go into detail about how the game ends or whatever the climax of the game, but just minor spoilers if you're not familiar but with the ending of Final Fantasy VII. But once the final boss is defeated, what you would expect to see would be, just an epilogue showing what happened to all the characters in the game. Oh, Cloud, moved on and did this. Tifa went and did this. Barrett went and did this. Sid did this. X13 did this. You had, who else? Vincent and Yuffie. I think those, and then Cat Sith. Is it Cat Sith or Cat Sheath? I've heard it say both ways. I say Cat Sith, and I have a feeling that's wrong. But that's not what happens in Final Fantasy VII. Once the climactic event occurs, the screen goes black, and you see 500 years later. And then you see Red 13 and his children looking out over a destroyed Midgar, which nature has slowly begun to take over. Sorry if that's spoilers or not, but 500 years later, what happened to all the other characters? All of a sudden, we just fast forward to a point where everybody's dead except for Red 13. Now, granted, since the game was released, they've expanded upon what actually happened to all the characters. There's been extra games explaining backstory, post-story, Final Fantasy Advent Children, which kind of explains what happens immediately after Final Fantasy VII. But why wasn't that stuff in the game? That's what kind of disappointed me. Every time I played through the game, 500 years later. What happened to everybody? I was disappointed about that. I just got to put that out there. I like having a satisfactory conclusion. And part of that, for an RPG, is finding out how the characters decide to live after the climax. And we don't get that with Final Fantasy VII. So, that's it. Again, I had more stuff on the list. Maybe I'll save that for another day. Some of it's not as... I mean, these were the 4 best ones I could think of. But again, check out Novabug's original video. And I would also check out his Facebook page, because everybody who responds will be posted on his Facebook page. And I like watching everybody else's responses as well. And again, that's a good way to find out about new channels and whatnot. So, thanks for watching. See y'all next time.
Transporter malfunctioning.
Yep, it is.